Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Wednesday, February 9th, and it's been a while, but we're very happy to be back and lots to talk about today. First and foremost, you probably heard already, but that 2016 Bitfinex, that hack, the money has been seized. It was over $3.6 billion worth of Bitcoin. Really staggering numbers there. Going to talk about that. Also, we have some CPI data coming out tomorrow. I know CJ has been talking about that with some members in the chat and how that may affect Bitcoin's price action. And lastly, we have some clarity about how lawmakers are going to choose to treat stablecoins when it comes to their issuance to banks. So all that and a whole lot more. We also have our member webinar today, 11:30 Central. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask them there. So lots to look forward to today. Very excited to dive into it. Before we do, CJ, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing well, Monty. Glad to have you back. Hope you had a good time down in Charlotte and the race went well. But yeah, excited to jump into a lot of stuff today. I mean, markets are up across the board. Indices, NASDAQ up over 1%, Dow reaching about up 0.8%. So really bullish price action in general. And obviously we got the CPI data. So we're going to, that's coming up later in the week. But overall, things are looking really interesting this morning. So excited to dive in. And how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, doing well, doing well. Glad to be back. I think we're setting ourselves up for, some positive price action here, and we'll talk about that during this show, of course, during our Doge of the Day, and then during our member webinar at 11:30 Central. But I want to start with some headlines here because this has been all over Twitter this morning, over the last 24 hours, and that is the news that U.S. officials have officially seized $3.6 billion in Bitcoin from the 2016 Bitfinex hack. And this is like right around the time CJ and I were running mining rigs. And if you think now is the Wild West for crypto and Bitcoin, 2016 was, a different type of frontier. That was there was stuff like this happening on the regular. And there's.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you remember Night Hash?
Yeah,
Night Hash mining pool, and like those people were so publicly known back in that day. That was a mining pool that also was hacked. Sorry, Monty, go.
No, and we could rattle off, a dozen more things that happened just in the year 2016 alone. But this is, without a doubt, the biggest and most infamous Bitcoin hack in history. And this report from the Justice Department, I think, is really interesting and thorough. And one reason why I like it is because they kind of go through how this Bitcoin was traced and the various wallets it was sent to in an attempt to kind of launder this money. All of this has fallen on the back of two, people that are living in New York. They've been active in crypto, on crypto Twitter for quite a while, and they are, the people being charged in this crime. That is Ilya Lichtenstein and Heather Morgan. But so just as an introduction, this is VCE, Virtual Cryptocurrency Exchange. When they say that, they're referring to Bitfinex, and it was hacked in 2016. At the time, it was one of the largest virtual cryptocurrency exchanges in the world, and it functioned like something like Coinbase, where you could buy, sell. It wasn't just Bitcoin or ETH; they had various types of cryptocurrencies available. And what happened was a hacker breached the system, infiltrated their infrastructure, and while inside, they were able to initiate over 2,000 unauthorized Bitcoin transactions, in which approximately 120,000 Bitcoin were moved. At the time, this was valued at about 71 million, still a very large number. At the time, I remember it was one of the largest Bitcoin hacks in history in 2017. But now, due to price appreciation, that Bitcoin is valued at over $4.5 billion as of February 2022. So, it started off as, a large crime. It's escalated to one of the largest crimes in the history of finance, not just cryptocurrency. But what I found was super interesting is the efforts that the Justice Department took in tracking this Bitcoin. And that's one of the things that I talk about a lot. That's really incredible about Bitcoin is the transparency. And people talk about how it's great for anonymous transactions. People use it as a money laundering asset, but in reality, it's not ideal for that because all information is publicly logged on the blockchain. So the U.S. Justice Department was able to track each step of the transactions and each step of the attempted laundering of this Bitcoin. And as of yesterday, they were able to seize it because of this ability to track it on the blockchain. So here's the process of what it looked like, these coins being moved. First, the wallet, which had the 2,000 transactions in it. It was an unhosted wallet. It had over 2,000 Bitcoin addresses, which were saved along with their private keys in Liechtenstein's cold storage account. So he had moved all of this Bitcoin, the 3.6 billion, into 2,000 various addresses. He moved it, dispersed them into these various addresses, saved the private keys in a cloud storage account, which is kind of how the Justice Department cracked into his wallet. Without getting access to his private keys, they weren't going to be able to get that Bitcoin back. They could know where it is, but recovering it is a different story. So this was a long process, and part of it involved gaining access to Mr. Liechtenstein's cloud storage account so they could get access to his private keys. But first, they just wanted to track, make sure where this Bitcoin was going. The next move he made was moving it to a darknet market called Alphabay. This is a darknet marketplace that was popular in 2017 and still exists today. They sell everything from guns to drugs to human trafficking. It's pretty insane what they offer on that site. So it's not too surprising that they kind of use it as an attempt to launder money here. And then from there, they continued to try and kind of throw the Justice Department off their trail by moving it to 7 interconnected accounts at a US-based virtual cryptocurrency exchange. It wasn't Bitfinex. It was likely another one they don't say in here just to not implicate any major cryptocurrency exchanges. But this is common with that sort of money laundering or attempted money laundering that occurs with Bitcoin. They'll try and move it to these various major exchanges because that's how you need to, more often than not, that's how you'll need to move it in order to get back into US dollars. Then from there, to just either further throw them off the scent, they moved it to various unhosted Bitcoin wallets. And then from there, they moved it to accounts owned by Liechtenstein and Heather Morgan and 6 other virtual cryptocurrency exchanges, some big ones. So from there, they continued to kind of launder this money through various venture capital accounts. They would, try to, fund startups using this Bitcoin money and make it harder and harder for the government to recover it. But ultimately, their efforts were futile as just yesterday, U.S. officials seized that 3.6 billion in Bitcoin. So crazy, crazy story. We've been following this for a long time, but now, the government has seized that Bitcoin. It will likely hit auction sometime soon. We've seen a similar thing happen in the past with Ross Ulbricht's Bitcoin. He had lots that was seized when his website was taken over by the government. So that Bitcoin will likely be hitting auction soon. 3.6 billion, really staggering, but ultimately, you'll only see these stories in crypto. So excited to finally get some news on that yesterday, and I think we'll continue to hear about this as the story develops.
Yeah, it was interesting that price, there was a sentiment that people were really afraid about, the government having that much Bitcoin. They're not just going to dump it on the open market, like on a Coinbase market order. That's not how you liquidate $3 billion of crypto. You have to go through OTC. You need folks like Tim Draper to be like, hey, I'll buy all your Bitcoin real cheap and then be even richer 5 years from now.
Yeah, exactly. He's still holding those coins that he bought from Ross.
Yeah, so maybe the government will just be like, all right, well, we learned our lesson in 2014. We might as well hold on to this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't announced any sort of plans for auction yet. So you're right, CJ. We could see them perhaps utilize this seized Bitcoin in a completely different way. But I think Bob's right. I see a Tom Hanks Netflix movie in the near future or some sort of documentary. I mean, this is just a wild story, and I think it's even funnier if you just, this is kind of off topic, but if you do a kind of deep dive into the social media accounts of these two people, Liechtenstein and Heather Morgan, I mean, they are some characters, and they've been contributors to Forbes in the past, talking about security when it comes to cryptocurrency. So, there's all sorts of, brazen actions and just, outright weird behavior. But I mean,
no, it's pretty cringe. I mean, one of them is like a rapper, and it's just it's difficult to watch. I got to say, nothing surprises me that much in crypto after all this stuff. When if Satoshi's coins move, that will be really surprising. But other things like this, we literally just talked about Wormhole and Jump having to cover that with 250 million last week. So there's never a dull moment in crypto. But with that being said, do you want to go into some charts and just do some
Yeah,
technical analysis, or do you like to
yeah,
hit some news
absolutely. No,
items
I
first?
actually had a question for you regarding tomorrow's consumer price data because I saw you in chat talking with some members of our community. I think it'd be really helpful to kind of just go back and look at some instances of Bitcoin's price action following consumer price data. So, yeah, how could we prepare for tomorrow? What have we seen historically on these consumer price data announcements?
Well, there hasn't been a whole lot of correlation in terms of like actionable moves. Obviously, when we were getting these initially and we are getting really high numbers back in May, when Bitcoin was very inflated and rates were very low, the Fed was very dovish. That immediately led to some harsh sell-offs in the market, and that's pretty expected. Um, However, once we fell and once we've had, the Fed become more hawkish, I think that the market has become a lot better in terms of like digesting the CPI numbers. You can see that these moves were like really extreme in the beginning, but overall, the market has kind of come to an area in which like the news is just a little bit more digestible, especially when before you consider like all throughout this run up the Fed's language was very dovish. Now, since they've turned hawkish, you have to wonder like what will these numbers mean? But overall, that's going to be kind of an outlier that we have going into the rest of the week that we're going to have to pay attention to. But as of now, markets are performing very well. Something that I do want to highlight here is some bids that were stacking up in the Bitfinex order book earlier, right as price broke above 44K. So, I typically don't, I watch this like all the time, like for hours during the day. And it's just on one of my monitors. And I typically do not see bids stacked in this type of fashion that they're so thick. And so these bids in the order book, when they come up in yellow bricks like that, they have to quantify a minimum of 280 Bitcoins, which is over $10 million. So decent size orders coming here to defend that 44K price level. We're going to talk a lot more about how important that level is in our Doge of the Day members only analysis after that. If you guys would like to get access to that, just check out the link in the description below, and we'd be happy to have you aboard. But I want to move to Bitcoin now and just some general broad technicals and discuss whether or not we are reaching a potential inflection point in the trend. I have a couple different trend indicators that I want to show you guys today and just walk through very briefly. First has to do with just the trend scanner, specifically 8 and 22 EMA crossovers. First bullish signal in the past 3 months. And typically these moving average crossovers do not give a lot of fake outs. So just something to consider there. Talked a little bit about that yesterday, so I don't want to do overkill with the EMA crossovers. But check out the Williams Alligator, another one of those moving average strategies that really does a good job of indicating when we have those inflection points. So for instance, during the entire uptrend, these were relatively parallel to one another. They did not intersect, and you did not have the green moving average crossing below. However, once you had that cross here, the momentum of the trend shifted, and then we had another crossover, and ultimately that led to the sell-off. Also, something that was very noteworthy that we did not see previously was the fact that, like, look here, we got rejected during that particular up move when we were really trying. I've seen a lot of people on social media compare this technical area to like where we are currently, and I kind of disagree, namely because we've been consolidating downward for such a long time relative to here, and plus we're already above that level. You look at our most recent time, we almost broke out, but we're then rejected by that top resistance level. You're not seeing that in the current trend. Also, we're seeing a bullish signal of the inflection point of the trend in which you're seeing that green moving average cross up. So we're seeing a bullish cross to the upside, very much like we had, at the start of the last uptrend. So just something to watch going forward. Very interesting there. And then the last thing I do want to mention is Keltner channels. And, these are just different ways to look at the trend, but basically we're just reiterating the same points here, which is, look, the trend is reaching a critical point that's showing we may be deviating from this bearish channel of what we saw the last 2 months. So it's just telling you pay attention. But let's be a little bit more specific and go through some examples. So the way that this Keltner channel has really worked well as like a support or resistance level throughout the entire trend is focusing on the midpoint. And when the midpoint consistently acts as support, once it then flips to resistance, the trend changes. And, we've been down and it's acted as resistance ever since. However, when we break out and then go to the top band, typically that results in an uptrend. And as long as we can hold this area as support, the uptrend can be somewhat sustainable. So what are we looking for now? Well, if we were to judge our latest run up in early August that broke us out of the last downtrend, we had a tentative rejection at the top of the band and then came back and formed support right at that midpoint. That midpoint is coming up right now. It is ascending, and it's going to be at about $41,000 tomorrow or the weekend. And, if we are to get rejected at the top band, like what we're pushing at here, that would be a reasonable position to like retrace to, say the 41 level, consolidate before potentially moving higher, like what we did at this particular level back in early August. So, you're just seeing a lot of confluence between these levels, and they're all telling you, pay attention, we might be changing trend here. That's the overall Bitcoin analysis for today. We're going to go in and do that with a lot of altcoins later in our Doge of the Day analysis. A lot of cool stuff and opportunities we want to talk about there. But that's pretty much it for Bitcoin.
One last thing I'd say, CJ, you talked a lot about confluence there, and with that upper band, one level that is perfectly in accordance with is the short-term holder on-chain cost basis, which is something that we talked about a while ago. It was acting as resistance because that was the average price that short-term holders paid for their Bitcoin. And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talking about how this price level, it's coming right around to 47K now, could potentially be an inflection point for Bitcoin here going forward. As each time we've kind of gotten above that short-term holder cost basis, typically we kind of hit that inflection point and see very positive price action and strong momentum. So I agree that we could hit some resistance at that level that would coincide with the top of that band, perhaps get a retest of the middle band. But if we do kind of come up to retest that 48K, 47K level again with some more momentum, I think that we could potentially be hitting an inflection point here in the next couple of weeks. So exciting stuff. Thank you for that analysis. And like you said, we'll be going a lot more in depth today during our members only Doge of the Day, as well as our member webinar at 11:30 Central. But I think that's all we got for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. And if you guys would like to join CJ and I in the crypto room, you can do so at the link down below me, markrebellion.com/try crypto. Just rolled out a big update this morning, but we have a pro charting service, a chat, a market watch list, as well as actionable trading sites with entries, exits, stop losses, and extensive education curriculum, and a whole lot more. Head over there. You can try it out for just $7 for the first week. And please don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out. It really helps the channel. But that's all we got for this episode. We will see you guys on the Doge of the Day. Have a great rest of your day and take care.